21st Sunday in Ordinary Time, Cycle A. The community's Action in Solidarity and Association Jesus Solidarity invite you to listen to the Living Gospel. This Sunday, August 27, let us meditate on the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 16, verses 13 up to 20, with commentary from Father Patxi Loidi in the voice of Jing Ocampo. Proclamation of the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew. Jesus went into the region of Caesarea Philippi, and he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter said in reply, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus said to him in reply, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my heavenly Father. And so I say to you, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the netherworld shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Then he strictly ordered his disciples to tell no one that he was the Christ. The Word of the Lord. Father Patxi's commentary. Greetings again, dear friends of the Living Gospel. It is a pity that today's Gospel does not take the entire passage, but divides the passage into two parts. The second part will be read next Sunday. Let us first comment briefly on Peter's statement, which will be discussed extensively next Sunday. We hear Jesus referring to Peter as the rock of the church. Peter is always interesting with his momentum, failings, tears, and the great work in the church. Today's gospel affirms his leadership and communicates to us his great act of faith. It is an imperfect faith because he thinks of a triumphant messianism, as we will see next Sunday. But it is faith, and it is full of love. That is why Jesus praises Peter and affirms that he is the fruit of a revelation from the Father. This communication is a warning to us. The Church teaches us faith, but then we need to personalize that learned faith through the particular revelation of God. We have to desire and ask for personalized faith today, seeing the example of Peter. The words of Jesus to Peter are mainly this: "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." The Catholic Church and its parishioners rely on these phrases to affirm the authority of the Pope. Orthodox churches always had difficulties in uniting with Rome until they separated 1,000 years ago. Protestant groups do not give these words the value that Catholicism gives us. They say that these words referred only to Peter and not to his successors, and that it was so in the 1st and 2nd centuries after Peter. In fact, Rome was gaining prestige from the 2nd or 3rd century on the assumption that the mortal remains of Peter and Paul were buried there, and above all, for their great solidarity, as we saw several Sundays ago. Thus, it became the point of view of the whole Church, the ecclesial reference, without being recognized a command power and less an absolute power. The Bishop of Rome was the first among equals with the other bishops. There are no reliable data on Peter's immediate successors, nor are we sure that Peter was the highest person in charge of the Church of Rome. The role and the name of bishop are patterned after him. The papal ministry was gaining strength from the second millennium, and it has gradually become absolute power, especially since the 19th century. That absolute power does not appear to be supported by New Testament passages. The last popes have recognized that the papal ministry, as it is exercised today, is one of the greatest obstacles to the union of Christians. It is also an obstacle for many Catholics. John Paul II asked the Church for light, especially for the bishops, to solve this problem. Today, many non-Catholic Christians seem willing to accept the authority of the Pope in the style of the first millennium. On this day, we must pray for the solution to this problem and for the union of the Christian churches. We must know that the universal church is defined as a union of churches and not as a kind of centralist and monarchical spiritual state. Dioceses are not departments or provinces of that state, but true churches in mutual communion and with Rome. And the tremendous veneration for certain authorities is not Christian because our only leader is Jesus, as another passage in the Gospel of today says in Matthew chapter 23, verses 8 to 12. Prayer. Lord, you pray to the Father for those who will come after the apostles, and you ask for unity. May they all be one. We are children of the division. We were born in nearby farms, but enclosed, separated by insurmountable walls. It is true, there are tall towers that must be topped. But there are many flats and fraternal houses forbidden to form a common table. Could you pray to the Father again with the same supplication? In the last 50 years, we have added more height to the walls, and we have called union to uniformity. And we wanted to make every river in the farms a single river in which all species cannot subsist. Have compassion on our locked houses, like the cenacle of your apostles, and cross the walls like you did on Easter, to tell us peace and union to all Christians in a single pluralistic herd.